little children, get on board. The little children, there's room for many or more. The gospel trains are coming. I hear it just ahead. Hear cowboys rumbling and rolling through the land. Get on board. The little children, get on. Little children, get on board. Little children, there's room for many or more. I hear the train a coming. It's coming round the curve. Putting on its steam and brakes and straining every nerve. Get on board. Little children, get on. Little children, get on board. Little children, there's room for many or more. The fare is cheap and all can go. Rich and poor are there. No second class aboard this train. No difference in the fare. Get on board. Little children, get on board. Little children, get on board. Little children, there's room for many or more. Get on board. Little children, get on board. Little children, get on board. Little children, there's room for many or more.
Ashe, 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 little children, get on board. There's room for many or more. And I just want to come on today to talk about the current circumstances and the deaths of the women that are in Gambia. And I'm going to be focusing on the diasporan women, but there are many women from all over the world who have been murdered or have had suspicious deaths within the Gambia within the last 9 months. Going back further, a year would be 10 or 12 women. And I just don't want to focus on Gambia. I want you to know that globally, African diasporan women are encountering the same types of situations, met with the same end of life situations. Some are being targeted, some are being vocal and strong. These women are highly educated, so of course they can be boisterous and adamant about voicing their opinions on certain things and stating their cases and also letting their voices be heard. And I think it's important not to marginalize these women because coming from a colonized state, dealing with systemic racism, institutional racism, and racial trauma, um, being put into a box and said that you are creating this circumstance because you're vocal and that you're very strong in your opinions of how you present certain things. So, regardless of a person's ability to communicate their concerns or their experiences, certainly there is not an opportunity for them to be harmed. Although it does happen, that's not necessarily the way that things should be. So, women are now the most educated group of human beings in the world. African women, in particularly, have the highest education rate. So you're going to have different types of women, with various backgrounds, education levels coming into arenas seeking opportunities, seeking to be able to share their knowledge, skills, and abilities. I myself was seeking an opportunity for to feel culture, to feel and understand what it was like to have an identity. I was looking for a connection to myself, to my roots, to my ancestors. I was looking for a connection to a place that my spirit could embrace and call home. So many are doing that, and many are traveling abroad. So it's not just a Gambia situation, but it is a global situation that Afro diasporan women who are single travelers are experiencing challenges that many others will not experience or have not experienced. There is no different from being in America than traveling abroad. The diasporan woman still has a target on her back. But the only thing that troubles me is the inability for us to collectively come together and collaborate. Now, everywhere you go in Africa, they have tribes, they have village chiefs, they have akalos, they have CDCs, community development committees, or CDUs, community development units. And in addition to that, they have something called a tribunal. So when you get into an issue in Africa, it's common and it's respectful to consult with your elders, to go to your community development committees, as well as to file your grievances with the tribunal. The tribunal sets the tone, at least I know sets the tone in Gambia, and they are very powerful. So if you want to make systemic change, you have to do it as a collective, and you have to respect the hierarchies and the chain of commands and the protocols. It is sad to see another sister, Anja Africa, demise, sunset, February 9th, 2024. And yet again today, another sister, Shakina Shadinu, was found demise today. All of them had extenuating circumstances behind their deaths. Veronica, there's so many that can be named. And I think it's important for us to say her name. As a woman, we need to be able to call out these atrocities, and we need to be able to stand up for the women. I know that Africa is a male dominant society. We all know that. You still have to be in a position where you understand the cultural nuances, the social norms, and you can operate within those social norms in order to give yourself some protection. And the problem is that I've lived abroad. I've traveled to 13 different African countries, to some Caribbean countries, to the French West Indies, to the UK. I've traveled and I've met people and I've seen some things and I've experienced some things. And like I said before, I lived in Gambia for 4 years, but the first 2 years I was busy doing social work and working in the villages and also trying to understand what those cultural and social nuances were. And so I wanted to make sure as a single traveler that I protected myself. So I'm very security conscious. And I wanted to make sure that I stayed away from certain things that can be seen as disruptive to the government. Their laws are different from American laws, but I do find most Gambians to be accepting, tolerant, and open. What I understand that they don't like is this back and forth and this banter, speaking negatively against Gambians and the country itself. The dynamics in Gambia are such that the country is small. It's gone through many a changes and is still growing and developing and is still trying to find its proper footing. And so the challenge is, dealing with citizenry as well as the political world, and then you have the traditional world. Many dynamics are happening simultaneously in this small country we call the Gambia. And we diasporans are seeking to migrate. There's a mass migration of diasporans who are tired of these colonized systems, leaving America, leaving Sweden, leaving Scotland, leaving the UK, leaving Brazil, leaving Jamaica, leaving all of these places and exploring the world, not just Africa, but many are landing in Africa because of the historical lies we've been told about Africa, and discovering the beauty of Africa, the beauty of mankind, the first civilization. So many of us are exploring, and we're learning, and we're cultivating, and we're developing. So, when you go to these places, it's important to um, understand the law of the land. And then you need to know how to navigate, particularly if you are a single woman, to make sure that you are safe. You need to have a network. You need to have a plan, care plan, a action plan, and you need to also let the embassy know. They need to know where you are and how to get to you. So if you're by yourself, you should have random check-ins with somebody who can um, be able to retrace your whereabouts, is what I'm saying. So you need to make yourself available, and don't just go to Akbulan arriving. We need to get on board. Little children, the train is here, the train is coming. There's plenty of room for you, and it's not necessarily Akbulan. We are indigenous people. Wherever you decide to go, and if that is your heart and you feel at home in that particular place, because we are indigenous people, we can go anywhere that our feet plant, and if we call it home, that becomes our home. So I'm just trying to encourage you to think out of the box, to be patient, and then to also stand up for injustices around the world for marginalized and Afro diasporan descendants who are trying to understand who they are, who are trying to engage Akbulan on another level. So we want to look at culturally, socially, systemically, those things that cultures normally are operating. We need to understand what those are, and then we need to value those cultural norms. We're all looking at, I talk about Maslow's hierarchy and how there's basic needs, then you have needs of belonging, you have self actualization, and then you have, now for us, culture and identity. So we are desperately in this age trying to connect with who we are as human beings, trying to connect with an experience. Do I believe that all black and brown people came from Africa? Absolutely not. I believe that the indigenous people were in the Americas first, and Asia and Africa, and all of that was interconnected at one time, and there was no separation, there was no races, but the hierarchy was class. It was men, it was, women and animals. And so class, wealth was another part of your class. So you could be indigenous and be wealthy and have upper class, or you can be a pauper and have no class and be treated lower than the animals. So yes, that still exists. So I want to encourage those who are traveling and those who have decided to migrate and repatriate to another part of the world. Make sure that you are conscientious about what you say, what you do, and who you connect with. And if you're single, um, some of us can be creatures of habits. And in this scenario, you have to break those habits so that people are not knowing your whereabouts, they're not knowing your schedule, they don't know how you navigate. You have to make sure that you are navigating differently in these environments. I don't want to take long. I want to encourage you to stay strong, but I do want to honor the lives of the women whose life was lost. And if Africa has become a place where Afro descendant women are murdered, then perhaps you need to reconsider your forever home. Ashe, good people, I'm sending you lots of love. Send up prayers for those who are bold enough to make the decision to seek out purpose and who they are. Ashe to you and shalom.